Just got a couple of minutes here. Supposed to get started at 10 o'clock, but I know how it is with everybody trying to jump in and get on. So going to give it a couple of minutes. I know Craig is supposed to be chiming in as well, so we're a little bit beforehand. Hey, Liz. You're muted. If you can unmute.
All right, there's like a little ringing. Oh, okay, here we go. Yeah, there was like a little ringing noise, but we got it now.
Okay. You can
Oh,
hear
it's
me?
back again. It's like a little ringing noise again.
Yeah, I think it's my microphone, to be honest
Okay.
with you. I had this problem yesterday with it. I'm gonna take it out and see if I can plug it back in real quick.
Well, I'm working from home today.
Do you still hear it?
I do, yeah.
Okay, then I'm gonna do this. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you, yeah.
Nope, I didn't think so. So let me. All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. That thing it's a strange thing with those, but I beat them up so much, because I'm always lugging them around that I probably just damaged them beyond what I should have.
Right. Yeah, it happens.
It's all right. Okay. I'm back. I'm all right. And we're just about ready. I was expecting, I know Craig is here. I know he's probably trying to get set up and get logged in, but I don't want to take more time than necessary, especially if I'm going through this first part here.
Okay.
So I can give it another minute. I don't know if you had people who were requesting time or trying. I know I got calls from a couple of people and some stuff set up. So whether it's now.
Yeah, actually, I only heard from one employee and she's not on yet. So maybe let's wait. I heard from one employee this morning saying that she was logging in and I don't see her here yet. So maybe just give it another minute or two.
Sure. Yeah,
Okay.
like I said, Craig's not on yet either, so I'm sure. And this inevitably the tech world that we live in here with everything that, we've got all the Zooms in the world trying to open up at the same time whenever you do it at the top of the hour. So,
oh, that's right. That's right.
Inevitably there's always a lag and a way to try to get everybody in at the same moment, basically.
Yeah.
We'll give it another minute. It's all right.
Yeah.
Otherwise, everything all right with you?
Yeah. Yeah. Everything is fine. Busy, as you can imagine. But yeah, we're good. We're good.
Yeah.
Have you golfed lately?
I did, funny enough, a week ago. The 16th was the last time I went out. It was for a cause. It was for Tee Up for Autism.
Okay.
However, you know, we lucked out a little bit. I mean, it was supposed to be pouring and it didn't rain until the backside, but somewhere around the 12th hole, it was torrentially downpouring.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
we had literally had to pull over and stop and sit under some trees for like 10 minutes while it downpoured on us. And then the rain passed and pretty much let up after like another hole or so. But
Oh, wow.
yeah, it was kind of wet, but we had fun. And yeah, I said to them afterwards, you know, it was you know, we didn't take any photos or anything. I said it was a good thing because we probably looked like drowned rats at that point because we were very wet from there. But all right, so I'm going to start up here.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
You know, in the sake of time and everything else. So I know Craig will jump on at some point. He's probably, like I said, trying to log in. But we just wanted to do an update. We talked to Liz about setting up and you know, touching base. And it's a good thing to do on a regular basis. You know, we did it about 6 months ago. And so every 6 months, we want to make sure that we're coming in and just talking to you a little bit about what's going on, where we sort of see things, where we see it headed, and some things that you can take away that you can be doing. This is both of us and our you know, as we like to say to everybody, we take all the information and everything we try to convey to you very, very seriously. We don't take ourselves too seriously at all. So that's us having fun and being in a situation where but that's our contact information. So for both myself and or Craig, whichever is easier for you. If you can't reach one, you can always get the other one. And on there are our scheduler. And I know that Liz shared that with everybody so that if you do want to request a time or a follow-up meeting, you can go right into the calendar. I mean, you can email us as well, but you can go right into the calendar to get us. One of the things that we mentioned to everybody that this is sort of, you know, what did you do over the pandemic? Well, Craig and I started a nonprofit. It is the Aries Foundation for Financial Education. You can visit the site, which is ariesfoundation.org. It'll tell you a little bit about what we do and what we're trying to do with that. And really for us, ultimately, the goal is to give back, you know, to help as many people as we can is what we're trying to do. But you can check out the site, see a little bit about what we're doing, you know, and some of the information that we're trying to share. I mean, the ultimate goal with Aries is trying to help everybody have a better relationship with their money. And that's ultimately what we're trying to convey. All right, so the agenda for today, you know, we're going to talk about the overview for the plan itself, a little bit on the investments in terms of what's going, but we'll talk more of that from the roller coaster of emotions that everybody is experiencing between, you know, the COVID, the elections, everything else. We'll talk a little bit about risk because it's always about risk. You know, the benefits of being in a plan, savings versus spending. I will walk through a little bit of how to access, if you're not online or haven't accessed the website, how to do that. And then a little bit of time, you know, we'll talk about some planning and again, the follow-up, be able to do it. If you ever have any questions, please feel free to just use the chat box, shoot out with those questions. Like I said, hopefully Craig jumps in at some point because he usually is the one who's watching the chat box for me, but it's available. So go ahead and if you got any questions at any time. You know, okay, so the plan itself, the setup, you know, basically you are eligible to contribute up to 100% of pay. I'll talk about that in a second with what that really means, right? You know, up to the IRS limits, which what I will go over. But rollovers are accepted into the plan. So if you worked someplace else and that money is sitting at your old company, you have the ability to roll it into the Rosie's plan to make it easier to manage and consolidate your accounts. Loans are permitted. You can loan yourself up to one time, and I'll go through the parameters of that, what it is as far as the amounts that you're able to loan yourself. All right, so a loan means that you can loan yourself up to 50% of your account balance. For COVID-19, they were allowing up to 100%. However, that window has closed as of the beginning of October. So now we're back to the old rules, which is $50,000 maximum or 50%, whichever number is lesser of those, right? So 50,000 is the max you can be lent out. Distributions can only occur upon death, disability, or separation of service. That means the money's there until you leave Rosie's, then you can take it with you. As far as the contribution that Rosie's is making on your behalf, that you are eligible once you are a participant in the plan, you have to do 1 year of service. And then there's a vesting schedule. Your money is always your money. However, the money that Rosie's contributes on your behalf is subject to a vesting schedule. This is not something that Rosie's put in place. This is something that the Department of Labor puts in place. But Rosie's chose a very aggressive vesting schedule. By that, it's only 3 years. As you can see, it's basically if you leave within the first year, any of the money they contribute on your behalf, you get nothing. In the next year, you get 50%. In the second year, it's all yours by the end of that second year. So it's a 3-year vesting schedule. Normal retirement plan age is 65. That's just a number. All it says is that, hey, at 65, they're going to start doing outreach to you and saying, by the way, have you decided to retire or not? You don't have to start accessing the funds. New rules with the Secure Act until age 72. But just so you know, it just says the retirement plan, the normal age is 65. Love that sound. All right, so it's free money, right? So Rosie's is making a contribution on your behalf. If you are there 1 to 3 years, once you do the 1 year of service, it's 5%. 4 to 8 years, it's 7%. And anything past 9 years, it's 9%. And like I said, after that 2-year time scale, that is all of your money. That also goes towards loans. So if you are concerned about, accessing or having money available, once you are 100% vested, all the money in your account becomes available as a loan. And that's free money. I don't want to say that again. That's free money, right? So anytime you have a program, and this is a direct quote by me, which you can certainly use and take, that is, free money is the best kind of money. All right, so those contributions limit, if you remember, I said to you that you are able to contribute up to 100% of your pay. The IRS limits that and says the deferral amount for 2020 for this year is $19,500. I believe I just saw they just released the DOL, the Department of Labor, just released the 2021 numbers, and I don't believe they changed. So I believe it's staying at $19,500 for that. And then if you are turning 50 or over age 50 this year, you can do what is known as the catch-up provision. I call it the Heinz 57 rule. If you take that, that's catch-up. Then you can add an additional $6,500 or a total amount for this year of $26,000. So if you follow along with what I said before, if you made $26,000, you could, and you're over 50, contribute 100% of that, all $26,000 into the retirement plan. I don't know what you're living on at that point, but you could contribute it all to the retirement plan. All right, so the market returns. And I just broke down, these are the major indexes. I did this as of Friday's close. So that was how the market ended on Friday. And this is what the numbers look like. So the S&P 500, that is just the 500 largest companies, the largest stock companies in the US. And you can see the year to date, it's up 3.6. So everything that's been going on, COVID and everything else that's happening, the S&P 500 is up for the year. However, when you look at it over a 5-year time period, it's in a negative return. The DJIA there, that's the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Most of the time when you hear somebody talk about the market or what's happened to the market, they are referring to the Dow. The Dow is made up of only 30 stocks. They are a greater representation of all of the market. But that's all they are. It's 30 stocks. And as you can see, year to date, the Dow is down, right, as of last Friday, and for a 5-year return in a negative. The Russell 2000, that's just a broader index staying in the United States, just the next 2,000 largest companies beyond the S&P 500, the MIFI, the Morgan Stanley Europe, Asia, and Far East, otherwise known as the MIFI. It's the rest of the world, if you follow, except for the US. And you can see the numbers there are good, you know, based on everything that happened, but they had been down for a period of time. So now with what's gone on, they're looking more positive, though of course right now, Europe is starting to experience a little bit of a second wave with COVID and starting to get some shutdowns occurring. So a little bit cautious there. And the last one there is the US bond. That's an aggregate bond. It's across all of the fixed income. Bonds are debt instruments. You lent a company money by taking out a bond, and the promise is that they are going to pay you back. You can see the numbers are actually very, very positive and good with bonds because you have a lot of people going to safety with all the concerns that have happened with COVID. So what does this tell us, right? What's been going on? Well, what's been going on is that we have been cycling through an up and down market that was really a wild ride, right? So where we were on 12/31, the all-time high for both the S&P and the Dow occurred in February. So we went to an all-time high in February of this year. But we were literally there for like 2 days, and then the market started to slide. And by March, we had bottomed almost 30% off that top. That's a huge drop. That's a ride down on the roller coaster there. But by August, we were back to where we were. Like I showed you, the S&P 500 is positive for the year. It's up. All of that is saying that this has just been a back and forth ride, and the risk tolerance, the guide there talks about how every market cycles, right? So we begin on optimism. Things look okay, things feel okay, you know what, I'm gonna get in. And then things start to go crazy and we buy, you know, left, right, and sideways in euphoria. Everything is great, everything is good, I'm buying. Well, what happens from there is we slide and start to go downhill from there. And really we start to, you know, get a little bit of denial. Oh, I can't think it's going to get worse. Fear, oh my God, it's going to get worse. And then desperation creeps in, which is, what do I do now? All the way until depression, which is generally when we sell out. And then we try to buy back in optimism. This is not the way to behave. Right? If the little quote there tells you, you know, the only person who ever gets hurt trying to riding a roller coaster is the person who tries to jump off mid-ride. That's the lesson for all of you sitting in a retirement plan. Don't try to guess where the market's going to go. Don't try to move in and out. Find the mix that's right for you and stick with it, because you are then going to be buying as we go up, you're going to buy as we go down, and you're going to average out over time, because otherwise, if you try to make some changes, you're going to be bouncing all over the place. And Tigger is one of my favorite Pooh characters, so I love this slide in terms of dealing with that. But this, in March and April, this is what the market felt like. You heard swings going left, right, and sideways, people telling you, oh, you should buy, you should sell, you should buy, you should sell. And what happens is you just get, you're never going to be able to stay on top of that. So instead of trying to figure out, should I buy today, should I sell today, should I buy today, should I sell today, what you should be doing is thinking about, no, I'm going to find my mix, my tolerance, and I'm going to stick to that as this roller coaster ride goes, because I know out over time, that's what's going to benefit me. Unless your time horizon is less than, say, 2 to 5 years, you shouldn't be worrying about this, because we're eventually going to come out of this. Now, we'll talk about a little bit of that when we get a little further along here, but we're still going to have some bumpiness, but it's all going to be part of this whole thing. And that's why it's always been about risk. This is a little cartoon just said, we like to have some fun with you here and have a little bit of a good time. So remember, Mr. Jones, the stock market, as in life, rewards risk takers. So the first step for you is, come out from under the couch. Basically, for anybody right now, you have to look at how much are you willing to risk, not worrying about the return, because the returns are going to be sideways for a while here. There is too much happening right now between the economy, an election, and frankly, what Craig and I see really coming from this is that getting to January is where this could all come crashing down. And that's really what we're sort of looking at here, because don't care about your political persuasion. Somebody's getting elected, right, in November next week, but they're not going to get sworn in until January. And come January, we'll have crested past the holidays, whatever those may look like. And then all of the companies in the United States will report earnings in the month of January. And I think that's where the tab comes due from COVID-19. And we're going to see really what the effect has been. At this point, we've sort of been, sort of sloshing it along and not really being too, looking in the mirror type of thing. But I think come January, that's where it's going to be. So if we are going to tip and fall off at some point, it's going to happen in January. And so risk, as far as the plan is concerned, right, sets you up and says, look, we're going to show you, and they do it pretty easily in trying to help you and be color-coded about it with, the short-term, the fixed income account, the guaranteed interest. There's no risk there. It's like a CD. All the way out to international equity, which, let's face it, not only do you have regular stock market risk, but you've got currency risk because they're operating in different currency. So that's why they end up at the higher end of the spectrum. And anything in between, but you want to find the mix that fits for you, have the portfolio set up so that it'll do it for you, and then go from there. One of the things we talked about at all the enrollment meetings is they have target date funds. And the target date fund just says you tell the account what year you want to retire, when you're going to be 65. That goes back to why that retirement age is 65 as far as the plan parameters are concerned. And they'll manage it for you. They'll set up and take, and watch how the risk should be now versus 20 years out into the future. And that's really what the target date is intended to do. Once you are comfortable with the investments and the structure and what you're contributing, you can then always change the allocations. I'll walk you through that with I'm going to go through the website and access in a second. But I'll show you how to do that and what you can do and to make changes. So I talked a little bit about the why it's important to stay invested as you go through this, and so this is just looking at it in a real basic that says, hey, I'm buying shares of this stock, and in January of 2020, it was $10 a share. So if I had 10 shares, that cost me $100. I'm putting $100 into the plan a month. Well, in February, it went up, right? The market went up. We went to an all-time high. Let's see, Piggy Bank Inc. went to $14 a share. Well, that means I got 7.14 as the market was going up. My $100 bought less shares because they were more expensive. But then the market went down, and I went from $14 a share to $8 a share. Well, now what's going to happen is I'm going to buy a lot more shares with my $100 because it's at less. You didn't do anything. All you did was say, as part of my plan, I'm taking my $100 and buying, the Piggy Bank Inc. as a share in my retirement account. And this is just as the market goes along, you're buying. The idea there is you are doing what's known as dollar cost averaging in all of this, which means that you end up buying more shares at a better cost. Sorry, I thought that was going to click with another thing there for me. So you end up out over time getting better average cost than trying to jump in and guess when you could have bought or should have bought, because that never works. All right, saving versus spending. This really, we did this earlier in the year and we did it as part of the presentation here. But one of the things with it is, everybody was affected by COVID-19 earlier in this year, right? And if you go back and look at what you spent in January and February of 2020, and then compare it to what you spent in March and April, you're going to have a drastic difference because we were in quarantine. Everything shut down in March and April. However, at that time, that budget, whatever that expense was that you had it for those 2 months, can you build off of that? I understand we're going out of the phases as far as the pandemic is concerned, but the lesson there is, were there expenses that you had that you were spending that you not necessarily needed to spend, right? This is want versus need. Do I need to spend this? Do I need to buy this today? These are the questions that you really need to be asking yourself in going through it, because you want to make sure, hey, if I'm trying to purchase something, save for something, I don't care what that is, or I'm trying to spend down debt, well, I got to know what I'm spending. And the first way to do that is create a budget. I'll talk about that in a couple of slides with dealing with a budget. But if you don't know what you're spending on a monthly basis, there's no way you can save for anything, because you're never going to get yourself into the habit of paying yourself to take care of that. And one of the ways we talk about doing that is to set up and make sure that you're covering, and you got to forgive me, these are buckets. I'm a buckets guy. That's my whatever you want to call it, my literal piece. Some people use bags, some people use pools of money. I'm a buckets guy. So everything for me is a bucket. And when I talk about that, I want you to be thinking about your money in 3 different buckets, right? The first bucket is your emergency reserves. Now, normally planners talk to people about having, anywhere from 3 to 6 to 9 months of expenses set aside for emergency reserves. Well, if COVID and the quarantine taught us anything, it's the fact that what we really need is to have at least 8 to 12 weeks of expenses in the bank. So if you went into the quarantine and you did not have even less, 6 to 8 weeks of expenses in the bank, that should be your first concern. Everything else should be secondary to making sure that there's at least 2 months worth of expenses, 6 to 8 weeks, in the bank and available should a second wave happen or another, whatever downturn occurs, but that you have that money set aside. That should be the first goal. Once you have that 6 to 8 weeks covered, then we can start talking about filling in other buckets. The second bucket there is your mid bucket, which is really, I'm trying to save for something, whether that is education for a kid, purchasing a home, a new car, whatever the case may be. That's your secondary bucket. Your third bucket is retirement. That's kind of what we're talking about here. But if you think of this and say, I really need to be focusing most of the money I'm setting aside in my planning process to bucket number 1 first, I'll still contribute to the retirement plan, but on a lesser amount until I fill bucket number 1. And then I can divert that money that I was putting there into bucket number 2 as I'm saving for that new car, the home, education for the kids, or whatever that may be. And once that goal gets achieved, then everything can slide over and fund into bucket 3. But until you have bucket number 1 done, you're going to put yourself on what Craig likes to call the hamster wheel of debt, right? Because if we don't have the money to cover an expense or something that comes up, what do? Well, we use credit. And credit inevitably keeps putting us further and further behind. That's the other part of bucket number two, besides saving for something. Maybe it's saving to pay down a debt that you've already acquired. Maybe it's a student loan. But in order to do that, you've got to have bucket number one covered. And then the other part is you've got to have a budget. Because there's no, like I said, there's no way to be saving, whether you're saving for something or saving to pay down something, if you don't know how much money you're spending on a regular basis. By regular, I mean monthly. Now, before we used to talk to people about trying to put together and track all the money that they were spending on a monthly basis. Even with apps, I know people aren't going to do it. So what we do now is try to say, gee, if you take 1 week, just 1 week, and commit yourself to writing down, pen and paper, not an app. I know everybody loves to have the app, but we tend to not focus as much there. So pen and paper, and write down every time you spend a dime. And there's a reason to doing that. It's twofold. One, you then start to see how much you actually spend on coffee and lattes and other things like that. But two, part of the psyche starts to say to yourself, well, gee, if I'm going to spend this money and I have to write it down and tell myself that, did I really need it? Do I really need to spend it today? Because maybe I can do without this at this moment in time. Not that I'm going to change your spending habits. That's not what we're trying to do. What we try to get you to do is to see what it means with what you're spending. And the budget, putting down exactly what your overall, how much money is going out of your pocket on a weekly or monthly basis, is the only way to deal with that. And that's really the biggest part in trying to put this all together, because that's what's going to help you in the long run. I told you as far as the account is concerned, right? So getting yourself online, if you are not set up with the account for Principal, you go to principal.com/next steps, right? It'll ask you to register as a user. You register as a user, just your information, and then you create a login username and password. And that will give you access to the site. And I don't know that I'm going to be able to access it this way. I did see if this will work. I didn't think it would. I'm going to escape because I already set it up so I would have it. Hopefully you can all see that now and it's the full screen, because that was part of my going through this and trying to bring the website up. So you get in as a participant. Now again, this is just, you'll go right into the Rosie's plan. This is just their sort of shadow account, if you will. But it'll bring it up and it'll show you what you have, your account value, what's in there, the vested balance. So like I said, with a vested balance is what I was talking about. Your money's your money, but the money that Rosie's is putting in on your behalf, that money is listed in the vested balance. If there's a difference there, that means there are funds that Rosie's contributed that are not yet 100% yours. That's just how you read that. So in this case, the individual would have contributed 20, somewhere in like, say, the 20,000 range. His employer put money in on his behalf, but he's not vested for the full amount yet, the 40,000. If you have a loan, it'll tell you what that loan balance is, your rate of return, the gains, the losses, and going through it, and then your information that you may have entered in. If you don't enter any information in, then that stuff is going to be blank. You have the ability to go in and put your details in and walk through, where you're trying to get to, the performance and the numbers in there. But if you're making contributions, you hit the contributions tab, and it pulls up and tells you, here's the amount that you're contributing, right? If you want to manage that and change it, you just click on the button and you make a change. And it'll say, I want to change, if I was this individual and I was doing 5%, maybe I want to go to 6%. And so I just put that in and then submit it, and that will, Rosie's will get notified that you want to increase or make a change there. As far as the investments are concerned, this just gives you the overall mix. If you want to make changes, you always have the ability to make changes. And you can do it yourself. You can have them do it. It's up to you as far as how that works, right? And you can go in and say, here's what I want to do as far as changing those. One of the things I will tell you with the change on the investments that are in there, you have the current setup. That means the portfolio itself, the allocation that's currently available. And then you have future dollars that are going to go in, the money that you're scheduled through your paycheck to go into the plan. You change one or both. So you can go in and change what is currently sitting in the portfolio, leave your future contributions alone, or just change the future dollars that are going in and leave the current allocation. It's an either or thing. Just be aware of it. I just like to make people aware that when you're going in to make changes to the investment does want to have that question for you, which is, are you changing your current portfolio or are you changing your future dollars? Loans and withdrawals, right? So you have the ability, like I said, there's one loan that's available that you can have, right? You can take out a loan. You can loan yourself up to 50% of your account balance to a maximum of $50,000 and go through that. It'll walk you through the process. You can, quote a new loan, which is to say, hey, how much do I have in the plan? How much am I available to loan myself? And it'll run the calculation for you. It'll tell you how much you're going to need to pay off in the event that you took out the loan, and how long it will take you to pay it back. Loan parameters, unless it's for a first-time home buyer, every other reason you have 5 years maximum to pay the loan back. If it's a first-time home buyer, it's 10 years. So you can take the funds out, you have 10 years to pay it back. If it's for any other reason other than home buyer, then it's 5 years. They'll set you up with a pay schedule, and that pay schedule comes right out of payroll. Now, one of the things with taking loans that you can do is, well, gee, if I'm doing $100, that's my contribution, the loan amount that I'm taking out is going to be $100. Instead of adding another $100 to my contribution amount, I can just decide to say, take the $100 and use it to pay the loan until the loan is paid off. You're not making any more contributions to the plan other than paying yourself back for the loan. But it's one of those to just to realize that you do have the ability to change that, instead of thinking, well, gee, if I'm putting $100 in and now it's going to cost me another $100 to take a loan, well, you can alter that and change that parameter in terms of going through it. But they'll walk you through what's there. There's a rollovers. So like I said, you can reach out to old employers if you have funds sitting at an old employer and consolidate them into this plan. That's absolutely allowed in today's world to do that. Planning resources, I don't go too much into this. If you want to go through it and see what's there, you have the wellness score and the wellness planner. You've got to go through and take care of that. You've got to punch in the numbers yourself. It's worth taking a look at and going through, but it does require a little bit of time and a little bit of effort. It's not like, hey, this thing's going to automatically populate by itself. You do have to take a moment and go through some of that and trying to take that and do that. But really, it's just make sure that you've gotten yourself online. right? Make sure that you understand and take a look at the overall, your information. And then if you want to make any changes, you can. If in going through this, you have questions, you have concerns, I'm going to bring it up in a slide or two about reaching out to us. We're happy to go through with you and figure out, help you walk through that or come up with any questions in terms of dealing with it. But really, the most important thing is getting you back and getting you into the plan, right? And setting up your account. I'll go back to the new share. Portion of the screen, share, current slide. And there we go. Okay, so that's just, again, just in case you didn't get it, or make sure if you haven't been onto the site, to make sure that you get yourself registered and get onto the site. Because that way you'll see where everything is and, you know, where your numbers are and if there's any other information from there. And that was it. You know, so, you know, one of the things we talk about is the ability to then use that information or work with us to try to guide you through it, right? So, you know, Craig's not on the call, so I'm going to throw him under the bus, but that's why he's here, right, is to do that. To have those conversations, to answer the questions and go through it. You can certainly, that's his direct line, 508-789-6415. His email, crichardson@moodystreet.com. Or like I said, there's a scheduler for each one of us. If you want to schedule time, that we can certainly go through that. But, you know, take advantage of it. That's why we're here. If you got questions, you got concerns, you're not sure what you want to do. You know, I know some of you have set up and set up meetings to go through that, and that's what we're here for. We want to make sure we're answering your questions and going through it, and if we can offer any advice or guidance. I told Liz this would be no more than 45 minutes. I think I'm right within that time frame. Anybody got any questions? You can unmute yourselves if you want to just ask the question. There's not that many of us on there. Or you can try to use the chat box, and I'll see if I have some control on that and be able to see it with the way my screen is set up. So anybody got any questions?
Hey, Tom, the only question that I have, it's not anything specific. Will you be sending me the recording to this? Because I had a couple of employees reach out and they wanted to hear the recording. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll make that available to you. Just so you know, it'll probably come from the Aries Foundation email.
Okay.
Only because the Moody Street email, it limits the size of my files, and the Zoom recordings for some reason take up way too much space. And because we've done these with a bunch of different organizations and had the same issue. So I'm pretty sure that would happen anyway. So just so you know, it'll come from the Aries, just because that email server tends to let me send bigger files.
Okay.
Hi, Tom. I have a question. My name is Carlos.
Hey, Carlos.
Hey, I'm new to Rosie's place, so I'm just wondering how soon can I start contributing or start my retirement plan?
So you can sign up immediately.
Okay.
So one of the things is there's no time limit in terms of signing up and access. And I know you saw, I saw the sign up from you for Friday. So we'll go over that on
Right.
Friday, and I'll walk you through all of that and going through it. But yeah, there's no limit. Like usually there might be like if you're used to other organizations, 3 months, 6 months. I have one that's a year. That's not the case. It's immediate enrollment, immediate eligibility.
Great. And as far as making changes to the plan, maybe 6 months down the road, I realized that I might have to make adjustments. Is that an option that I have, or is that not allowed?
Oh yeah, no. So that's part of what I was trying to show you on the site, is that you've always got the ability to make changes to the amount that's being contributed So let's say you go in and, you just got crazy and said, I wanted to do 20%, right? Without really thinking about it. You wouldn't have listened to me, but that's okay as far as going through that. But let's just say that that's what you did. And then you realized, a month in, wow, this is way too, I don't not got enough money in my pocket to live on here. This is crazy. So you can then go in and change that number. And that it'll automatically happen. Once you do it, it'll be the next payroll run where that change occurs.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Same thing goes for the investments. The investment lineup, you can, like I said, you can put it all into one fund to start. And then over time, you can decide, well, gee, I might want to try this or try that. In some cases, we do have some socially responsible positions in there. So, I know that's part of the message and part of the mindset. So a lot of times it might be, gee, I want to start, threading some funds over into the socially responsible category as well.
Okay.
Great. No, I appreciate it. I look forward to talking to you on Friday. Any other questions? All right. If it really is that nobody has any other questions, I'm going to stop the share on this. We just have one more screen there in terms of that. You can see it. So thank you to everybody as far as that's concerned. But stop the share and then just say, listen, if you ever have any questions, anything comes up, you know how to get a hold of us, just reach out. I know some of you have, and we've obviously had conversations with others. That's why we're here. So appreciate the time. And Liz, like I said, once I finish this up, it'll take a little bit for Zoom to do it, but figure by tomorrow, I'll send you the recording.
Okay, perfect.
All right.
All right. Thank you, everyone who joined.
Take care.
Okay, ciao. Bye-bye.
Bye.